I Won't Envy is a podcast about professional jealousy in creative fields. In my own career, I've had to confront the fact that jealousy is a byproduct of being an artist, and that no amount of repressing or denying it can make it go away. In fact, my most successful strategy to manage my professional jealousy has been to name it. But what are other strategies? In each episode, I'll be talking to artists in different creative fields to learn about their relationships to professional jealousy and how they've come to understand it and navigate it. I'm Vivek Shraya, and you're listening to I Won't Envy. Today I'm talking to Kiran Rai. Kiran Rai, also known by her creator name Kayray, is an actor, storyteller, and director based out of Toronto. Throughout the past decade, Kiran has used her platform to primarily focus on addressing taboos within the South Asian community through short films, documentaries, and digital series. Her short films, Ananke, which garnered over 1 million views on YouTube, and Kayray have gone on screening tours all around the world. This led to her co-produce and star in 28 episodes of the hit web series Anarkali, which reached approximately 2 million views across all seasons. And with her show Cha the Cup with Kayray now airing on Brit Asia TV, her work continues to be recognized by the likes of the Toronto Star, NBC News, BBC, CBC, and Cosmopolitan. I wanted to talk to Kiran because being an actor requires you to constantly audition and then be constantly rejected, all the while having to be in the same communities and rooms as your peers who have potentially gotten those roles you have auditioned for, or vice versa. And I can't imagine a better recipe for professional jealousy.
Maybe there's like this doubt of wanting to believe that you're jealous. But the funny thing is, I think earlier in my years, I don't think I had that as much. I was really focused on my own lane. And if anything, I was so curious to see how all these women that were not women of color, but these women that were doing really big things, and how can I be in that position? How can I get that opportunity? How can I make that a reality for myself? So for the longest time, I was just so focused on making something like that happen. And actually in more recent years, I can see, and I think this happens as you keep getting older, there's this little bit of jadedness you start feeling. And that might be because you experience so much rejection. I mean, I experienced it so many ways, whether it be pitching projects or whether it be pitching myself as an actor. I think I just always felt like even having a podcast, like I had a podcast back in 2016, 2017, and pitching that to other folks, even people that were agencies for podcasts didn't even have interview podcasts at the time. So I always felt like I was doing things that were not on trend, and then all of a sudden they did become something that was a trend, and it can get confusing. And sometimes you see people who aren't really passionate about acting or filmmaking being in those spaces now and writing their own shows or movies and getting funding for it, and you just know that that's not actually what they were passionate about. They're just doing it because it's the thing to do now. And I do see myself getting a little jaded by those things.
It's funny how, like, in this conversation already, you've like you steer away from the word jealous and use the word jaded, and it's like, it's reminding me of my mom, because I mean this with a lot of respect, but she won't say the word jealous. Like, she says the word J. She's like, I think that person's J. Like, it's like, even to say the word jealous is kind of like, and I don't know if maybe this is a South Asian thing or something, but it's like, you don't want to like invoke that. And so it's like, in some ways it's easier to be like, I feel jaded.
Maybe it's because of like Nazar, evil eye. I think
yeah,
that
exactly.
might be
You don't want
where
to be
it's
like
come from.
putting the evil eye on other people or
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah. So you're just like, I can say how I feel about the situation, but I can't say it's because what that person's doing, or then my thing has always been, which is, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I always have this habit of just like seeing something and then how can I quickly reframe it versus just feeling it sometimes.
So in those moments, what do you do? Like, do you name it to yourself? Do you say, Kiran, I'm feeling a little jaded right now, or like you said, do you just say, okay, I got to reframe it?
I try not to buy into the stories my mind wants to give me, because I think feeling is one thing, and feeling it could be just an emotion that's just trying to pass through. But if I keep giving the story, that's where you can sit here for a long time,
So
weeks,
what? So what
months.
kind? What kind of stories does your brain tell you in those moments?
Um, that maybe it's not meant for me.
Mm,
Maybe I'm not meant to do those things.
mm,
Other people might be more qualified. Maybe if I did this when I was this age, then this could have
mm,
happened.
mm.
A lot of blaming myself, even though it's not my fault. But I think, or maybe it is, I'm kidding.
So I'm curious though, when you say you generally reframe things, instead of feeling the things, what kinds of reframing techniques do you have? Like, what are the other things? What are those reframing things you tell yourself or do?
Yeah, I think a really good one for me has always been, um, instead of comparing in a negative way, because I think we've been taught to compare, even in South Asian culture, when we get compared to our cousins, for example, or
Yeah,
the
yeah.
kids, the neighborhood kids, we constantly feel bad about ourselves. But then comparing in a way that's like, oh, whatever I see in myself, I can see in that person, or whatever I see in that person that I like, I might find that within myself. So being able to see that that's possible for me, even someone like you, Vivek, who's been able to do so many incredible things in your career, it's just so nice to, because I see that within myself sometimes, and sometimes I lose it and I'm like, I'm not doing enough, but I feel like when I see someone like you who has done it, and like you've gone through the waves and you're still going through the waves, but you're still doing it, it just inspires me so much, because it reminds me that I can do it too. And I feel like sometimes we get so caught up in like, oh, I could easily look at you and say, Vivek is doing everything and I'm never going to be able to do it. But actually, you're inspiring me. And I feel like that's really what I take away from all of it. It's like I see other brown women doing stuff and I'm excited for them, actually genuinely excited, because I know that it's possible for not only myself, but others too. And that it's actually making it easier for us to do it, versus when I know what it's like to start and not have anyone on your side, or not
Totally.
have anyone believe in the work that I do. So I do that as my reframing.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Do you have specific triggers that cause jealousy for you?
I think, like, for example, there was a person that I knew of that ended up having an opportunity, um, that I know that I was in the same position,
Yeah.
and then that person ended up getting it.
Mm,
And it's someone that I might not have the best relationship with either. And so I think that was like, and then constantly having to see it, that was difficult for me. This is the
hmm
first time I'm ever talking about this out loud. So um, but I think you're getting exclusive content here.
Okay, the
But
tea.
but I think that was very difficult. And then there's like times where I've seen, like, I would come up with an idea, or like something I've been working so hard on, like digging, I'm trying
Mm,
so hard to get there and
mm,
build the foundation for myself. And then I see someone who again doesn't care for it, or like they just, it came out as an idea that they want to do this now. And then they're just doing it because they might have the resources, they might have the money, they might have the followers, they might have all the backing behind them. And then those are moments I'm like, oh, what am I doing wrong? So I could see it's very specific. It won't be like a certain time period. I think it's like maybe from certain people that I see stuff from, and I'm like, how do I not get caught up in that?
Has anyone ever said to you, "I'm jealous of you"? Like, have you ever had an artist say that to you?
I have had some people say that to me, which is
Um,
really weird.
um, and what have they said, and how have you responded?
I've had people say it, and then I've also had people act a certain way
Right.
that was very interesting. Like I've had people full on say, um, "Oh my God, I'm so jealous that you get to do all these things." I'm like, "Oh, okay, someone said that, and now I'm gonna have to wallow in this," which is
So yeah, so
not the best
what do
thing.
you like think in that moment, and how do you respond when someone says, "Karen, you're so lucky, you get to do this and that, and I wish I could do that." Like, what do you say to that person?
I always tell people that they can literally, if that's something they actually want to do, or if that's something they feel they wish they had, I want you to find that within you, and not look at just, don't look at me and think it's not possible for you. I want you to find that is possible in you too. And if you actually are somebody that aims for that, or if that's something you're actually passionate about, I do think it's possible. You know, I didn't think it was possible for a long time because, again, there's nobody that looked like me doing it. So I am really lucky. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I am really lucky that I found people along the way that were very kind and supportive. But the thing is, I realized this recent about myself too. I've been doing it for other people too for 15 years, right? Supporting artists as much as I can. And I foster that community because I've been also doing it with so much love and genuine care for our community, and like seeing so many artists and wanting to give them a platform with, for example, Jaw the Cup, or whatever platform, even for the collective, trying to make sure that people feel seen and wanted. And then when people say things in like that regard, it feels like, oh, you missed the point. Like I want,
Mm.
I'm trying to make sure we all eat. So
Yeah, that's so interesting. It's like we have these feelings towards other people, but then when someone says they have that feeling towards us, we're like, but I'm a possibility model. Like,
yeah. Like
so it's
what?
like, but it's a good reminder, right? Like,
Yeah.
is that when we see other people that we feel that way about, like, how do we look at them as possibility models? You know, how do we look at them and be like, oh, yeah, like I guess they're doing it. Like maybe that does mean I can do it, as opposed to the opposite place of like, oh, this isn't meant for me or whatever,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. I think there has to be a shift. And every time we sit in the why is it not possible for me, I think it's so easy, and it's so easy for us to get caught up in that. But I think it's also important to recognize where it's coming from. Like, when did you feel like that when you were younger? Or like, when was a time where you felt like someone told you that maybe someone might have made you feel like it's not possible?
And now look at us. We are doctors through the arts, you know?
Exactly. No problem, no big deal.
What have you learned from jealousy, or what can jealousy teach us?
Mm. I think going back to what we just talked about is like, jealousy has taught me that everyone's a mirror, and
Mm,
that I can find whatever I think I'm lacking, or think that that other person has that I don't. We can find that within ourselves. And it's just sparking something within us, maybe something that's not healed yet, something that we need to work through. But it's also sparking something that we want and desire for ourselves, and that is possible. And I think anytime I've ever felt it, even for a minute, and I'm going to say jaded, but I think I realized that I can own it, and also appreciate how far I've come as an artist. But I'm also looking at how others are making it possible and showing that it's a reality. Our life, our time is very temporary, and not doing it with purpose is an injustice to ourselves. So I always say, just go for it, and people are just showing you what's possible for you.
I Won't Envy is produced in partnership with Buddies in Bad Times Theater, the world's largest and longest-running queer theater. For 46 years, Buddies has carved out a sexy, disobedient edge in Toronto's theater scene and has been a world leader in developing queer voices and stories for the stage. You can learn more about their programming, from theater and festivals to parties and drag shows, at their website, buddiesandbadtimes.com, or find them on social media at BuddiesTO. I Won't Envy is a podcast by me, Vivek Shraya. It is recorded, edited, and engineered by Beau Cassidy, with original music by myself, produced by James Bunton. Thank you so much for listening.